So what I have learned from Achima Fejen is that leadership is the process of superordination and subordination. Leadership is a process of elevating people. It's a process of the elevated people to start attending to the people that have elevated them or the subordinates. There is no question, there is no moment in leadership where a leader is all by themselves taking a walk, or where the subordinates are left to themselves. Nature dictates that there will always be a leader that emanates, that comes up and take lead. I regard leadership as the process of abasing oneself, abasing and humbling oneself every time they are elected, promoted, or appointed. When you are given position, when you are given accolades, when you are given a platform, this elevates you as a person. It makes you feel quite important. And if you are not watching this, pride can come in, and pride can start affecting how you lead and how the person, how you behave as a person. Now, this is important for us to just keep in mind whenever we talk about the question of leadership. Number one, I said, it is about superordinates and it is always about subordinates. And then secondly is that because of this power dynamic, there is a potential that you will be conceited and proud. When you are offered a platform, you will feel most important than all of us, but we would have elevated you to a position so that you can present our needs, you can present our concerns, you can lead us. We must be able to look into you and look at you and feel like you are our future as a leader. And if we don't see this in you, if you don't see this in you, it means that you have started to be proud. You have started to be conceited. We are pakama. That thing, ogupakama, brings a lot of things, a lot of challenges, because you start undermining people. I realized that we don't have the right vocabulary to address wayward leaders. We don't have a vocabulary to address people that have people that have messed us up. We trusted them and then they went the other way. I think it's about time. I was just accepting a few people. Excuse me. It's about time that we start addressing people who have dictatorship tendencies, not as leaders, but as despots. We should also find a way of using the term leader or leaders so as to certify those whom we regard as leaders. Leadership is by consent. Followers must join your leadership by consent and not by coercion. Otherwise, you cease to be a leader, but a despot. A despotic leader is really somebody who's a tyrant, who loves absolute power, autocrat, and all of that. And a leader gives you more of a sense of a comfort, and you feel that you understand that this person is important amongst us. At the same time, this person cannot be fearful. You can't feel fearful when you are around this person. Respect, reverence is different than being fearful about maybe doing something wrong in front of the leader because he's going to do A, B, and C. It's easy for despotic people, despotic seniors and superordinates amongst us to make us feel that if we mess up, we're never gonna recover. If we get it wrong once, we will never be able to be loved or to be brought into the in circle or close to the leader. So there's that feeling, there's that level of emotion and humanity when it comes to leadership. There's that feeling of fear when it comes to the correct form of superordination. Despots use all means of coercion to get vulnerable people to follow and obey them. I don't have to explain this. I feel once we say this, we already have people that make us, think of them when you're thinking about someone who actually coerces vulnerable people. So I don't want to bring names. I'm not going to bring names. I'm not going to bring ideas. I'm not going to bring ideas into your mind, but I want you to think of somebody who really coerces people and vulnerable people so that they can follow and obey them. Because for them, this is a form of power. This is a form of, reverence. They are, they want to be respected, feared. They want to be loved, but also, they want to be, they don't want to be questioned. These are despots, despotic people. I don't even want to say despotic leaders. As leadership, we must be able to make this distinction for the people that we lead, for the people that we live among, for our families. We should listen to these kind of nuances and these subtle messages where people come back from work and they have this sense of fear around leadership, and we must be able to explain where this fear comes from and what kind of remedies we can bring along. We are not presenting remedies here, but I'm just bringing this up as a form awareness. There's something that I really love that Chief Langa from the Xhosa speaking nations, when he was addressing and when he was, ukuthwesa ubukhosi in the investiture of uNgqika. Uthi ntokamlawu mzukulwana kaRharhabe, namhla uthwesa ubukhosi bakowenu ziphathe ngokundiliseka. Isidima masikufanele kunye nobulungisa. So what this essentially means is that this one chief acknowledging and ordaining another, the king uNgqika, has to sort of conjure in him some kind of moral behavior. I'm going to translate, Jonathan, don't worry. Moral behavior. He says, this is Chief Langa, to uNgqika. He first, reminds him where he comes from. You are the grandson of Rharhabe. Today we are honoring you. We are ordaining you to chieftainship or chieftaincy from which you belong. He says, "Ziphathe ngokundiliseka, carry yourself with dignity. Isidima masikufanele. Let respect and dignity suit you. Let dignity, let your character demand dignity and respect. Let your being demand dignity and respect. Kunye nobulungisa and righteousness." This is at the grassroots Xhosa level, where one chief is honoring and acknowledging and ordaining another to say that we expect from you that you take this rope of leadership, of chieftainship, and you must carry yourself in this particular manner such that you don't have to call for respect. Let it feel like it belongs to you. Let people want to give it to you. Let wisdom as well be closer to your heart. It must always come to you. People must feel like they must give it to you. And then he continues to say, ngabantu bakho aba, these are your people. Yiba nguyise kubo, be a father to them. Ubaphathe ngobulumko, treat them with wisdom. Isandla sakho masibe sihle, let your hand be beautiful, treat them well. Singafunani nesiqu somntu, let your hand not want someone else's body, don't want to hurt people, don't want to assault people. Kuba isithethe sakowenu sithi induku ayinamzi, because your customs, cultural norms dictate to you that induku ayinamzi. It means that a whip or a stick doesn't have a house. You can't build a house by beating people up. You can read this and you can see already that before leadership trainings came, before leadership awareness, this is at the level, I think it must have been around the 1800s when this would have been, or 1700s, I'm not sure, when this would have been said from one chief to another, from one leader to another, and there's no intervention of Europeans at this stage. It is something that would have been carried from one generation to another. And this is the leadership talk, as pure as it is. So I put to you that when we are leaders, we must have elements of being judges and arbitrate. Leaders must be concerned with conflict resolution. Alexa, stop. Sorry. So leaders must always be busy with solving the issues of the people. Solutions to community must come from leaders. We must always use the mechanisms of solving problems as a reason to reward leadership for the work that they've done. If a leader doesn't solve problems, the leader doesn't deserve to be rewarded, to be given anything by the subordinates. What has happened in our time is that our leaders have earned salaries from a distant arbitrary body, the government, and their work towards the government is not as direct to the work that they needed to be doing to the people. There's so many conduits before their work gets to the people. So now they get paid even if they don't solve any problems for the community and they don't solve any conflicts for their community. This brings about a conflict in society, especially as our people understand leadership, that our leaders continue to grow and have money and have houses and have cars and have this, but our problems are increasing this side and that side. And therefore, that break in that communication means that our leaders can be displaced in society. We don't know, they can lead, but we don't know them. They can lead, they can be whatever they want to be, but we don't have direct benefits from their wisdom, understanding, and their ability to arbitrate and judge justly for us. So the objective distance of the judge from us and our problems, which then brings this level of wisdom that they need to have to solve our problem, disappears. And their functionality in our community, we just don't know. We can no longer say that our leaders are ours, because we no longer see them coming close enough to be able to touch our problems and wisdom and use their wisdom to judge for our issues. To be a judge, I think this is the point I wanted to make when it comes to this objective distance of the judge, is that to be a judge, you must be distant enough sometimes from the issue So when a mother and a father comes into my office and I'm a leader, I'm a little bit distanced that I'm not going to be biased. At the same time, because I'm close enough, because they can walk into my office, I can offer my wisdom, which is something that we are daily missing, because we have these problems of leaders that sit in offices and we have officials that come through and help us. So if our problems increase, but we have leaders, we are sustaining and feeding our problems. We can't have leaders and have increasing level of conflict, problems, poverty, and all those things. So we then need to reclassify the people that we have, or we then need to understand again, what is it that we are sustaining and feeding? Because certainly, ikhona engalunganga. I want us to briefly talk about your vision by the time I finish here. And I want us to talk briefly about where you want to take your life and how can we start fixing what you have. But think about what I've just posed to you, because you will then have to be a leader to yourself. You're going to have to arbitrate, you're going to have to lead, you're going to have to make sure that you lead yourself very well. And then I wanted us to also talk about building a dream. You can't build a dream if you don't know who you are, because you need to locate yourself to know where you are going. And let me not, again, because I'm looking at time, because I have now to be a judge also to myself. You have to lead yourself and not victimize yourself like despots do to others. It takes a big heart to build something where others might want to serve in. Our society needs good self-leaders so that we can accommodate those people who are around us. Your vision, my point is this, your vision is going to be what we are banking on as society for us to have a place to function in society. If Jonathan's vision of himself is not implemented, it means that people who see Jonathan in the community, in the classroom, in the family, will die, never have worked in their whole lives, because Jonathan didn't step up into where he needed to step up. So the vision that we are building, the vision that we are seeing and the dreams that we are building for ourselves will serve the people that see you as a leader. It's different when people see you as a celebrity and they are your fans. You don't have any obligation towards their progress in life. They can just celebrate you. And we can all get likes on Facebook and on Instagram. It's a different thing when you are functioning in your level of calling, passion, vision, because then this inevitably becomes too big for you alone. You can't eat and finish your own vision. You can't feast from it. If your vision is enough to be just your plate, it's not, it's just your meal. You know, your vision is a seed from which forests need to grow for other, organisms, for other, animals, to benefit from. So building now this dream, and as a leader, building this self-awareness, it inevitably means that you are already solving someone else's problem. I'll tell you one thing. We are running a discussion on Friday this week. This discussion we are running, it's on our 6th year running this organization, Fruits of Democracy. However, there are a number of people who are working behind the scenes and who are getting paid, who will get paid to work behind the scenes, have gone beyond the circle of friends that I have, and have gone beyond the family that I have. And we are now starting to touch other small businesses that are growing in order for us to deliver on this vision, on this dream that we've had. For us, it took us 6 years to actually build this. So it's not something that I can say that people can wake up and they can feed the nation. However, it is important that one day you must wake up and actually commit to building your dream. I thank you. The biggest thing that I want to do today is to just give you a sense of what I'm thinking about. And this will lead to the publication of a book that is coming. So I didn't even take much from the book, but I wanted us to start having these conversations so that by the time I start with the book drive and marketing and everything, we already have a group of people that are following the thinking that I am bringing along. So I would want to attend to you. Even if I prepare very good training for anyone else in the world, I would still need to ask them, where are you? Who are you? Where are you? Where do you want to go? And then that is how we can actually assist. For 2 minutes to 3 minutes, do you have any thoughts that came from what I just presented? Do you have anything that you can pose when it comes to the questions of leadership? Yes, yes, Lavelle. So you
okay.
have yes.
Can I come in?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, once again, I'd like to greet everyone live on the call. Mine is just a comment, Tim, you know. I think as you were taking us through some of the highlights around what is expected, at least if I'm paraphrasing, out of that kind of leaders that we need for our society. I could not but not remember a conversation I had with my mother this weekend. You know, I asked her because she was very involved in the freedom fighting, you know, activity around Epai and so forth, you know. And I thought someone from her generation to ask her the question, if she would sit down and reflect on the promise that they were fighting for back in the 70s, in the 80s and so forth, what feedback can she share with me today, you know? And apologies there, my daughter is always around me. I want to apologize. So I'm trying to run away from her, but she's always tracking me. Okay, so I was asking her in trying to sort of look back, where is she at today? And she was like, she's very disappointed. And I mean, she said this gets closer, you know. This is an understatement in me trying to share it in English. Very disappointed. I mean, the amount of effort they made, being involved in COSAS as young people, being involved in June 16, you know, so yeah, what can I say? The points you've just shared when I'm Tembo, they just triggered to me the kind of leaders we have. If we were together during all that period and I so happen to be elected today, you know, like in Tony, you know, I'm looking for a word in English, you know. I think it's another important facet of leadership, that aspect of really thinking what would people think of my caliber, you know, if I were to behave in a particular way, you know. So it's not like we're having leaders that are in a remote island where no one knows the history. They are in front of us. We were together with them. We were watching them all these years. And today we are disappointed, you know. I think that's all I had to share, fam. Thanks a lot.
Enkosi Mhlekazi. So the biggest thing, the first thing that we have not done yet is to make it our daily practice to find out what kind of people should be able to lead us. We have not done that. We've expected a group of people or some organizations to bring leaders for us, to breed them for us. If they give us these leaders, we then judge everything in society on those people. We've never questioned our leaders because maybe they were too good or whatever the case might be, or they suited us so well. But then now we are at a point where if we don't actually bring up these conversations about leadership, the same way we bring conversation, what is it to be a man? And anyone can talk about. The same way that we have conversations about corona and all of that and vaccines, and we are not having the same excitement and excitement around who becomes our leaders and how do we actually get our leaders. So number one, if I were to say anything about leadership, I would first say that our leaders must be people that we see our future, that when we look at them, we are able to see our children emulating and all of that. For up until we see those people, I wouldn't say that we have leaders. I would say that we have people who are in positions of power. Secondly, I would want to say that whoever we have elected to be a leader, we must never distance that person away from this system of solving a problem and getting rewards. I'll give an example. In the Xhosa context, a chief would have to listen to people's problems, and if someone has done something wrong, then they will make them pay something. If they don't do as expected by society, then you pay something directly to the leadership. So the pay and the well-being of the leadership is as a result of the leader attending to a problem and punishing someone, and then they actually earn something. See, when we took our leaders and have them to have salaries and all of them, I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen, it should happen, but I'm saying that that incentive that a leader must immediately be able to solve a problem. Think about the leaders that we have. Directly point any problem that they've solved and say, this person solved this problem for us. And therefore, we think that this person has actually been rewarded appropriately. Look at the local government leadership. Who has solved which problem that we have that reward, what that deserves the reward that we give to them? This might be mundane as well, but it's such an important mindset to start having, that we as leaders do not deserve the rewards we have until we solve problems. I know what problems Bantu is solving. I know what Ola's solutions to problem are. I know what Vuyo's problem, what Vuyo's solutions to problem. But what I do not know is if we have set to make that a part of a reward system, that every leader, if this leader haven't paid this, haven't done this, then it means that they are not worthy of the reward. And then thirdly is that we need to get to a point of classifying people who do not perform right in leadership position and be able to discard them when there's a need. It must just be a natural thing that if you are employed or you are appointed for 5 years in a position. In the medium term review, after 2.5 years, if you haven't achieved 50% of what we've expected, we must actually start a mechanism, a punitive mechanism. Why? Because it means that we have a leader who actually earns something out of us, who actually get their side of the bargain, but we are not getting anything we're not getting the solutions that we need as a community. So that is a message that we need to be communicating. We are not communicating that. We are not communicating the punishment of leaders. Secondly, on the other side of this, the reason why I thought it was important for us to start having discussions around, even rewards. One of the questions I asked you there is is whether people should be taking care of their leaders or not. The reason why I'm asking that is that if our people do not take care of the leaders, then we have lost so much power to actually send to the leader when we are actually angry. We have lost so much position if we can't say that we as a people would like you to lead us, and because of you leading us, we're going to give you this amount of money. If we don't do that, if we don't take care of our leaders, it means that our leaders would get money and rewards elsewhere and they don't have to attend to us. So somehow we need to bring back the mechanism of saying people must be able to take care of the leaders so that the leaders can perform in a particular way. That's something that we need to look at. And then I also looked at the issue of the conduct of the leader, which I think you'll find in my book a lot. Someone just apologized for ESCOM's, sabotaging them. Sorry, Abongil. So if we don't start talking about leaders, about what we expect of leadership, about how do we become leaders, it means that this is a field of our lives that we are literally giving away, and I think we can do better than that. Let me tell you a story where there was a jackal, Uchakalashe, that was hungry, that was hunting, and then this big stone fell on him, and he was stuck. Then a rabbit came along. The rabbit wanted to help this jackal, but then he realized that, hey, this person is going to chow me. The jackal promised that, no, I'm not going to do anything. I'm hurt. Help me. He's crying. He's wailing and needs help. The kindness of jackal, of the rabbit, helped to move the stone, and the jackal was free. Now then he remembered that he was hungry when he was actually, stuck under the stone. And then he thought, no, actually I can still eat you. You help me, but I can still eat you. And this conversation came that, you know what, I was helping you because you were hurting, and because you were hurting, I thought I cannot, just look away. Let me just help you, even though you are detrimental to my life and all of that. The jackal was about to eat, and then the rabbit went to the lion. The lion asked, can you just show me how everything was before there was this conflict? Can we just go back and reenact this situation? And then they took the stone over again over the jackal. And then the lion, as a judge now, also said to the rabbit, now you can make a decision again if you want to help this person to free themselves so that your life is at risk. The power that we have as the people, we have not executed it appropriately as following. We have not executed it appropriately. The influence that we have as people on the ground, we have not executed appropriately. And we keep on saving people that will feast on us. Now, this is a question of race, this is a question of politics, this is a question of church, this is a question of family, this is a question wherever you see leadership. And I don't want us to reduce it to what challenges we currently are facing because we go into the elections. But it's a conversation. I am saying that as the people or as leaders who are also led, we need to take back some of the power and we need to reenact some situations, and we actually need to free ourselves and protect ourselves. Anyone with a question that would want me to respond to? This is a Q&A question. This is a Q&A session, so don't be quiet. Let me show you what you guys. Yes, yes, just a moment before you come. Where's this thing? So basically, this is what you've said is a one word that comes to mind, that when you talk about the vision, it's a mission, it's a plan, it's a goal, it's an end goal, it's a dream. Whoever was talking can respond. Sorry, I didn't get who was talking.
Hi, we're here.
Yes, yes.
Thanks for the opportunity. No, I just wanted to ask. So I know you have been speaking on e-leadership, and I just wanted to inquire from in your view, do you believe in models of leadership, in our modern society? Do you believe in that we should follow models of leadership, or do you have your own model of leadership or what leadership should be? That you would recommend Abantu prescribe to, that leaders, the future leaders prescribe to? I mean, what's your view on that? We
see, when we were taught about being a charismatic leader, being an autocratic leader, being all, what they had not done was to come and see how we understand leadership in our context. So we got most of this from university textbooks, and most of which came from a European or an American. Actually, most of our textbooks come from an American setup. I do think that we need a different kind of a leadership model in a different situation. You do need a Mandelic kind of a leadership when people are going all different directions and they've been fighting for centuries, and you need someone that is going to actually bring everyone and no longer say that you are wrong, you are right. So you will need that kind of a leadership. But then you also will need a different kind of a leadership when you have to get people to work, because physically I can sleep all day and not work. That is, I would feel that's a natural state of a lot of people. But to have someone to say, get up, do this, let's move, let's do that, it's a different kind of leadership, and it's not a Mandelic kind of leadership. So what I am trying to do in my space is to try and find out, where do we need to be? Where does Vuyo need to get to? And then what are the tools that are needed for you to actually get there? In business, in entrepreneurship, you need a different kind of a leadership mind. People are going to ridicule you. People are going to say that when you're starting out, it's not perfect, it's not right, and all of those things. But you can't now be that lovey-dovey and accommodative leader and, okay, let me incorporate this and everything. You're going to have to make certain decisions. You're going to have to let other things, fall to the back seat so that you can attend to what is important at a particular time. You're going to have to actually grow a thick skin. You're going to have to push boundaries. You're going to have to break walls. You're going to have to speak it to the manager. You're going to have to get people to say, look, I've paid for this. This is what I need. So there are different kind of leadership attitudes and characteristics that one requires for a different context. I don't think that we should subscribe to one kind leadership. However, there's a fabric that a leader needs to have. Even if you are harsh, you must be able to be loving. You are harsh to get things done, but you must not break people up, and we don't talk about that, and we don't find a lot of that, or we have not discussed where do we find that in our own culture, literature, and all of that. Take, for instance, there's a different kind of leadership that we are experiencing. Have you seen when you are led, say, a common thing is to say that, women are not masculine and leadership should be masculine. Women should never be masculine if they want, or if nature has not given them that. Yeah. Women can still be able to address certain things in the same voice that she can use it, because the leader's voice is authoritative. I should not have to raise my voice in order to be able to make points and all of this. And this does not need me to be an autocratic leader in order to get things done. So you will soon see that I don't subscribe to one. I understand that we would need to understand what kind of leadership we need, and we need to understand what other people are thinking, whether it's an American context, European context. I don't know if you were already in the chat when I was talking about. Let me just go there. I'm going to share this. What kind of a leader is I don't know, were you here when I was talking about this?
Yeah, well, yeah, I was here. Yes, I was here.
Yes. So we've never heard from our textbooks that a chief Langa who was, say, a ruralitarian ever said these things to another chief, to another king, only. And this might not emanate from any textbook that we've read. We've never been informed that even in the academy, that we can use our own experiences, our own people, in order to actually advance different kinds of leadership. The biggest problem that we can say that we have, we are not able to understand our own traditional sense of leadership, which has certain questions that we need to answer. That you have a chief that can tell you what to do whenever you need to do. It doesn't matter what you are doing, or he can hurt you, or he can do this to you. We've been made to look like barbaric people because people didn't understand, and therefore we didn't engage. We have leadership that is taking care of their people. Come and give to the king. Come and give to the king. And that has been made as if it is not something that can be taken to the 21st century. And we then need to ask again, what was I've noted, Juban, what was the purpose when people took care of their leaders? And how do we classify that? Is it corruption? So those are some of the things that I think we would basically start to have to almost talk about. Is what did it mean that our king or our chief would have to punish someone and say, give me 3 cows for this thing that you have done? Was that autocratic? Did this person do something that was wrong enough for the king to make such a determination? We have not engaged that we had councils, and what is that system where a king, before they make a decision, there's a council that sits. I think Ichala Lamawele will be able to help us understand that protocol. And where is it in the kind of leadership characteristics that we've learned from our schools and universities? Yes, Mandu.
Thanks, Olwam. I wanted to ask about the issue of indoctrination, especially on us at universities with, oh, sorry about that. My daughter is trying to
It's
sleep
fine,
on
it's
my
fine.
desk. We are taught a lot about Eurocentric leadership. And we implement this in how we do things and approaches. Then there's the African leadership. I would maybe down south, behind every leader, there was a woman who was an advisor to the face that we see as a leader, because normally we'll see a man as a leader, but behind that voice, there's a woman. How do we then come and introduce our African leadership in a space that is already dictated by these Eurocentric ideas and ideologies, and also bringing now the role of a woman in the leadership space, because they were always behind the curtain, knowing that the decisions came from a woman. For instance, Magashaka was making all those decisions, but she couldn't really have a voice in public. She had to influence the son to implement certain things. How do we change the narrative and take ownership of our own leadership ideologies as Africans? And yeah, that's my question, because at universities, in a way, it's like they're taking us backwards and making us forget that we've always been there and we've always had these processes of leadership. You're talking about the councils and everything, but now they do not exist. We have to conform to these European ideologies and concepts. How do we come about then coming back to who we are as a people?
So I understand that women did lead some, at a particular time. I think I just forgot the name of this lady who led a group of men to go and negotiate during the frontier wars. And you can read more about this in the scholarship of Omamutisane, Obabala Makotwana, who are actually studying, the role of a female and a mother, the maternal legacies in the Xhosa context, in the African context as well. That even when a king or a chief died prematurely or before there's a proper handing over, that if there was a next in line that was questionable in character, the regency was given over to the mother to take care of the throne until the next in line, or until the one that is young can actually grow strong enough in order to take over, because maybe the uncle that would have been the temporary king was not trustworthy
But
in character, in behavior.
agendas.
So what's that?
No, I was saying probably the uncle would have another agenda.
Yes. So what would happen? What would happen is that whenever there's a crisis in leadership, largely this crisis is then taken to the woman. The woman will then keep everything in order until the man can then find someone who can then, because of the Selic culture that we are in, the Selic law that we are part of, which led men to actually lead, can then find the right person, or the person can grow old enough in order to actually lead. There's a concept of a glass cliff theory in leadership concerning to a woman, where whenever there's a problem, we saw this at KPMG when there was an issue of corruption and their name almost went, their name almost was tarnished because of senior accountants, chartered accountants, and board members that took questionable decisions. They pulled the woman to come and say, look, it's transformation and everything. There's something there where there's an issue in an institution, and then a woman is pulled to stabilize something. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm saying that it also has happened where there were issues of questionable, who's next in line. We saw that in the Zulu context when the king died, and then a woman came, to be, a regent, to take care of the throne until an appropriate appointed person, which that question can still, the jury is still out on that. A woman comes in and stabilizes. In the closer context as well, the symbolism and the power found with Tabao, the paternal sister, Tabao, the sister of the father. We sing songs, Bandu, Dadabao, Sikela Mandla, to this, matriarchy, because men can come and bow down, they can come, things would not happen, cultural ceremonies could not happen because of this maternal figure is absent or she's late and all of that. So the leadership that we have received from the European context has blotted out any form of structure that we've already created in the cultural context, especially in my case, in the closer context. There's no question of the seniority of women in my household, like endlini. I grew up with my grandmother taking care of things and driving everyone. I grew up my mother leading most of the cultural events. I do not know if we don't see that as leadership, because we have reduced leadership to appointed positions in society, which then brings about the question that I'm trying to bring us to talk about, is that let's question what we have classified and defined as leadership. And we'll only know how to define ours when we sit down and create imbizos amongst ourselves and find out, wait, man, we can see this abuse of women, which is wrong, and we speak against and we do this against and everything. But where does it come from? Where these power dynamics are coming from? And how do we address them? The scholarship of Mamutisa Nelson Mandela University is very much useful, even with the importance of Umakulu as an institution of memory in a household. Elderly people are not discarded in our cultural context. Elderly people remain, institution of archives and memory that we can actually go to, sit around the fire or sit around at home, and then they can tell us, oh, that person belongs to that person is that person's, or this is what has happened at that land. Isn't that institutional leadership within a household? Isn't that a principal of the house? Isn't that somebody who is holding a very important leadership function of educating our children as to what is it that they should do and who should they be? How then do we define leadership, and how then do we position, or are women already positioned culturally in order to lead in this institution? We understand the medical doctor that leads in that institution and someone who has a marker and they can lead, but we have not, an alu for our stomach who knows what should happen when a child can't sleep, they're heating up and all of those things. We have not attributed a leadership badge on some of those things. Is there a way that we can sit down and say, okay, well, can we redefine ourselves? But most importantly, how do we understand ourselves as leaders, even if we are not in positions of leadership, but we are functioning like Uvuyo, like Ulavelo, like Unongoleko, and so forth. Is that helpful, Bandu?
No, yes, definitely. Kutengos.
Okay, I think as we near to a close, the biggest thing that we need to be doing, we need to be maintaining the good work that we've been doing. I know all of you that are sitting here, that you are running institutions, you are doing something. I know the responsibilities in society, and I know the kind of professional work that you do. But I want us to huddle closer together and work on this concept of leadership. How do we redefine it for our own selves? Because if we don't do that now, someone is going to come and redefine it for us. We are going to move to transitions after transitions, whether politically or in government or in different sectors of society, and people will be telling us how to be and what we should be. I'm asking us that we should find ways to constantly come together and actually question and talk about this question of leadership even more as we go, to the end of the year and to the new year. I'll tell you why, because in the book that I'm writing, and I've tried so much not to actually tap into what I've written there, which presented another dilemma for me to present, but so that you find something new in what I've actually read, but in the practical and the daily life occurrences that we see, so that we don't undermine what we know or who is around us. We don't undermine where we come from. We don't undermine our voice when we have to actually go to the next level. Because if we don't do that, if we don't take that stand, we will buy everything again, and all of our monies that we are raising will go to someone else because we just couldn't believe on our own institutions and in our own selves. Thank you very much. Is there anyone that would like to say something before?
Let me jump in. Okay, sorry, Vuyo. Do you want to jump in first?
No problem. You can speak.
Okay, thanks, man. Thank you so much, Olwam, for the session. And I think now I get the actual point about redefining leadership. And there's so much different kinds of information that we bump into, that we are fed, that we are supposed to live up to according to the standards that are created every now and then, especially if you look at it currently, how the workplace is revolving and everything else. Leadership is on top and it's also defined in so many ways. I like the fact that you are saying we should always try and question it and try to define it for ourselves and our own, which makes sense. My only question to me is, maybe as us, how do we then, because the main thing that we know now, even at home, school, the community, our people are very much, we complain about everything. And the right thing about people complaining, they are not just complaining, they are complaining because there is something wrong, which is the right thing, because people cannot keep quiet if they are seeing there's something wrong. But then how do we then accelerate a mindset of people who don't just complain, but are finding solutions to whatever they are complaining about? For instance, now if you look at the whole this politics issue and who's gonna take us forward as our communities, we all are in between. We are not sure whoever now should take us forward. Now, how do we then get to solutions that can assist us as the community to find a way to take ourselves into this direction that we believe is the right direction? So I think my thinking is around there. How do we influence the next kid, the next young woman, to just shift our eyes from this leadership that we are seeing that is no longer taking us to the direction that we were always hoping for, but shift the whole direction to where we are going? How do we as leaders at the moment trying to find ways to influence people to just not complain, but find solutions to make sure we are going to the direction that we think we deserve.
You are already doing something good. So the level of pioneering that we are seeing in our generation has surpassed the level that I have seen in the previous generation. It has surpassed in my family. When I look at my family, this generation compared to the one before, our parents and all of that, I see us pioneering new things. Now, pioneering gives us or brings to us certain responsibilities, certain powers and all of that. And because now this is almost new, because anyone who was leading in our previous generation, they were doing it for themselves and they would just go to work and disappear the whole day and come back with the big car. Now we have people that are saying, good, this is an idea, I'm building this idea, and then it's growing, and then it's bringing more people towards the idea. I'm able to make money, buy a big car. Now I have power because people think they can buy big cars through me, and therefore that's a different kind of a dynamic. So one of the ways is to make sure that we build and talk about our shared responsibility as we become prominent. It's new in our families mostly. I would also venture to say that it's also new in our communities. Why? Because a lot of people are starting, successful ventures. Even if they're not successful, they're able to go to the next one quite quickly with the lessons that they've had from the previous venture. This is important because then it's institutional and cultural memory that dissipates into thin air if we die without talking about it, if we die without writing it down. And we write how we write it down to communicate with another person. Our elder, or like what are these, people in the 1800s and 1600s, probably the 1400s. I don't know when did they started marking, art on the rocks in the caves. Whoever was there marking and writing on a rock.
It was 60,000 years ago.
Do you understand? That person was informed by not necessarily a formal education, or was not approved by a professor in a university in order to mark and scribble on a wall or on a rock in a cave. They did so because it's something that is just beneficial for you as a person who's writing it down. I'm not going to anxious that I'm going to forget it, because now it's written down, whether it's a piece of art, or whether it's a word, or whether it's some kind of typography that is it hieroglyphics or something? My wife will correct me. Whatever we do, we mark. We can no longer wait for people to validate us anymore. You can't write a book. You can't lead people because you've not been appointed. You can't write a book because you've not been published. You can't write a book because you have not passed A-level English, or because you are not English. Your mistakes are gonna show, and therefore you will be regarded as a failure, or someone that is incompetent and stuff. We can no longer wait on those things anymore. We need to start doing it for ourselves. One of the challenges that we faced as South Africans, I'll speak for even myself, is that we grew up in the township education, which was a mix of English and isiXhosa throughout. So my English will never be an English of somebody who grew up, in Europe or in America, because my context is of a mixed reality of everything, mixed families, everyone is here. And I can't say that is not my family, because this is the experience I have with family. Mixed schools of all different people, we're just here, we're just doing things together. So now to expect myself all of a sudden to write like a Malcolm Gladwell who grew up in Canada, it's fine to aspire to be like that, but it doesn't have to invalidate me in what I'm doing. So I cannot stop providing leadership in this sense. I cannot stop pioneering something from my community because Someone else is not here to validate or certify me. That is what we need to do. We need to do it until we are getting better, even if we get better until we die. That will send so many messages to people that come after us. That is important for the mobility of our society and the progress that we are trying to bring. And this is the kind of drive I'm trying to bring when I'm saying, look, we're going to talk about leadership and we're not going to be perfect, but we're going to start talking about it. What is in people's minds? We're going to start writing. We're going to start a radio station like Obantu did. We don't know how it's going to come together. We're going to get a mic today. We're going to get, a booth, voice over booth tomorrow. We're going to build. That is the kind of space and attitude that we need to be in. Someone is going to come on Twitter and rubbish everything that you are doing once because they feel so powerful that they can say it to you and everybody can laugh at you. But we don't stop because of that. We march on. Sifake imbola ebomvu and march on njengamaqaba and get things done. So that spirit of resistance of our people who fought about 100 years resisting, to be assimilated and to be, colonized by a people. That spirit is that spirit that we have. And with what we have, with the roads that we have to push on. We have to do things that people think that we should not be doing. There's a story of a bumblebee that scientists are telling us that it's not supposed to be flying. When you measure the wings compared to the body weight, the wings are not supposed to carry this weight, but the bumblebee is just flying because it doesn't know science. It doesn't know what are the ratios, that it should follow in order for it to do what it does. And that is the kind of leadership that we need, and not stop talking to each other, and not stop redefining each other, and collectively, be accountable to one another. Whether you are a woman that needs to lead in corporate, or a woman that needs to lead in the family, or you are a man that needs to actually now address certain things, generational things that have not been addressed, by present masculine bodies in the family. We will have to be that kind of a generation. Anyone wants to say anything before we close? We have 5 minutes before the time.
No, Budimna. No, I just wanted to thank you for what putting together this conversation. I definitely think that the subject matter is ibalulekile, and we do need to have more discussions like this. And I definitely would love to join more of these conversations as you do more of them. And I really definitely support the idea of people definitely coming together and building on top of these platforms, building on top of these conversations, and being able to see something come from them. So definitely, I would love to thank you for putting this together, and I've certainly learned a lot from just this conversation and this engagement.
Thank you very much, and thanks everyone for joining. I don't see any other hand going up. The question of leadership is something that we have been given. Ubukhokheli or isikhokhelo. I think it's a different character, and has different characteristics in the traditional sense or the cultural sense that we know, but we have not engaged it in this fashion. Leadership has certain expectations that we cannot meet. Leadership has this expectation that you must be a public speaker. Leadership has this expectation that you must have a tie. You must have a microphone. It has this expectation that you must have an office. It has, to some cultures, it even has this bias of a particular voice. There was an article that I read, and I sent it to some of my friends, that this voice is leadership. This voice is not taken as leadership. So, and we are simulating this, we're not questioning, because if we do not question what we are being given as the expectations of leadership, it means that we're going to assimilate it and try to implement it in the spaces where it will consistently be rejected because it doesn't solve any problem of our people. Leaders must be able to arbitrate and solve problems. We can't understand the concept of solving problems only in the context of entrepreneurship, but we need to be able to understand it in the concept of what are our leaders, what were they trying to solve, what are our current problems, what are we trying to solve. I have so many problems that I could list here, but I think it's another day that need proper leadership, whether by voice, by writing, whether by meeting physically and everything. There are so many questions and problems that our society has. That doesn't even need a politician or government, but we have not been in a position to put ourselves forward for these things to be solved. And therefore, they are piling generation after generation, and we are not moving forward as a society because of that. And it's not gonna, no one else is gonna come anywhere anymore. There's no other Mandela that's gonna come. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We will see each other next week. I have someone, but we'll be talking about a different conversation next week. It's a friend of mine who works for a vaccine company who's based in Germany, who will be joining us, Udwayne van Zyl. He's from East London, but he went to work in Germany. And we want to discuss this question of vaccine because now we have to listen to people telling us all sorts of theories that they have in their mind, and we're not listening to the professionals that are working in these vaccine companies, international vaccine companies. So I managed to find someone who's close enough to us by birth, a South African, who can talk to us about the question of a virus and how the vaccine works. And then the last week of November or the first week of December, we will have someone who's going to talk about the vaccine, the virus, and the body. Alexa, stop. The vaccine and the body, in order to actually start talking to people who are in the field and start solving problems instead of, just following the trends. And what's going cheers, guys.
No. Bye, Tata. Bye, Tata.
Cheers, Olwam.